Man helps lioness during difficult childbirth. What lion did shocked the whole world. In the golden light of dawn, the southern edge of Kenya's Tsavo Conservation Zone came alive with quiet movement. Ranger Kamau, a quiet man with 20 years, a field experience and skin leathered from sun and wind, moved silently along a familiar patrol route. He wasn't tracking poachers today. He wasn't following migration paths. This time, it was instinct that pulled him into the southern ravines beyond where his usual watch ended. A week earlier, camera traps had caught footage of a heavily pregnant lioness traveling alone, separated from her pride. She was strong. Her golden coat was full and her gait steady. But something about her behavior had caught Kamau's eye. She wasn't nesting. She wasn't slowing down. And she was moving too far from the known lion territories. That meant something was wrong. Lions rarely give birth in open ground. They seek shelter. Thorn thickets, caves, dry riverbeds where wind and hyenas can't easily reach. A lone lioness, especially one carrying life inside her, was exposed. Vulnerable. And in the wild, vulnerability could mean death. Not just for her, but for her unborn cubs. Kamau reached the ridge before noon. The sun was already high, the air sharp with heat and silence. He pulled out his binoculars and swept the valley below. Nothing. Then a flicker of movement, a golden flash. There, beneath the shade of a tilted fig tree, half hidden by brush, was the lioness. She was lying on her side, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Her tail twitched in the dirt and her back legs kicked at nothing. Kamau froze. She was in labor. But something was wrong. There was no movement of the cubs, no sound of soft mewling, only low growls, guttural, strained, and an occasional whimper, barely audible, that told Kamau everything he needed to know. This birth wasn't going well. He didn't move. Not yet. Approaching a lioness during childbirth was suicide under normal circumstances. A mother in pain is the most dangerous animal in the wild. But Kamau wasn't reckless. He stayed downwind, watched, waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. And in all that time, the lioness did not change position. She heaved, she groaned, but no cub came. The ranger's throat tightened. He'd seen this before. The cub might be stuck, or worse, stillborn. And, if that happened, the lioness could die trying to push it out. Nature was beautiful, yes, but it was also merciless. Kamau reached for the radio clipped to his belt. "I found her," he said softly. "Alone. She's in labor. But I don't think she's going to make it without help." There was silence on the other end. Then a single word, "Understood." And just like that, the call was made. A man was going to try and save a lioness giving birth in the wild. And no one, not even Kamau, knew what would happen next. Kamau knew the window to act was closing. The lioness hadn't moved in over an hour, and from the way her breathing slowed, and her sides barely lifted with each exhale, it was clear she was nearing exhaustion. In the wild, there's no room for long labor. Predators become prey when their bodies fail them. Hyenas, jackals, even vultures knew the signs. And they were always watching. When backup arrived, it wasn't a team. It was just one person. Dr. Sefu, a field veterinarian who had worked with Kenya's wildlife service for almost a decade. He was calm, deliberate, and carried only what he could strap across his back: a tranquilizer kit, a birthing intervention pack, and a soft canvas bag with emergency supplies. He didn't speak much as Kamau led him to the ridge. He just listened. Once the lioness was in view, Sefu crouched behind a thick cluster of shrubs. He studied her for several minutes, then finally whispered, "She's in stage 2 arrest. That means the first cub is stuck. Could be positioned wrong. If we don't act now, both she and the cub will die." Kamau nodded. "But you can't sedate her, can you?" Sefu shook his head slowly. "Too risky. If I put her under and we can't monitor her vitals fast enough, she may not wake up in time to feed the cubs, if they survive. Worse, if there are other predators nearby and she can't defend herself, it'll be over before the drugs wear." Off. They made a plan. Simple, but dangerous. Kamau would circle wide to make subtle noise, enough to gently draw the lioness's attention away for a moment. Not to scare her, but to shift her head. Open a window for Sifu to get close. It was a gamble. A human stepping. That close to a birthing lioness without tranquilizers had no second chances. Kamau moved first, breaking a small twig underfoot, just loud enough to rustle the lioness's ear. Her head lifted slightly. She groaned, but didn't rise. Her strength was too far gone. That was the moment. Sifu dropped low, crawled the last few meters, and reached her flank. From this angle, he could see her body was tense, unnaturally so. He pressed 2 fingers against her abdomen and felt it. The cub's position was wrong. It wasn't coming out head first. It was rotated, shoulder jammed against the birth canal. There wasn't time for full intervention. With precise, practiced movements, Sifu inserted gloved fingers and carefully shifted the cub's body. The lioness growled, eyes flashing open. Her tail lashed, but she didn't strike. She was too weak. Or maybe somehow she knew this wasn't a threat. Knew that something had finally come to help. With one final adjustment, the tension in her belly shifted, and moments later, the first cub slid free, wet and still, but breathing. Sifu backed away slowly, his heart pounding, not daring to look away from her eyes. She didn't lunge, didn't roar. She turned, inspected her cub, and began to lick it clean. Kamau, watching from above, whispered into his radio, "It worked. I don't believe it, but it worked." But what no one expected was what the lion did next. Sifu had only taken 3 steps back when the lioness turned her head toward him. Not abruptly, not with aggression, just a slow, deliberate movement, like she was taking him in properly for the first time. Her amber eyes met his, not wild, not desperate, but focused. There was blood on her fur, on his hands, on the grass between them. And yet, in that strange silence, it didn't feel dangerous. It felt still. Kamau watched from above. Breath held, one hand near the tranquilizer dart, in case things turned. But they didn't. The lioness didn't growl, didn't shift her weight. She simply looked at Sifu, long enough to make him wonder if what he was feeling was real. Respect, trust, something ancient and unspoken. Then a faint cry broke the moment. A second cub. This one emerging naturally, weaker, smaller, but alive. Sifu backed away another step. The lioness turned toward her newborns and began licking the second cub clean, gently nudging it closer to the first. And just like that, the focus shifted. The danger passed. Her priority was no longer the threat. It was life. Kamau made his way down carefully, the tall grass parting around his legs as he approached Sifu. The vet was kneeling now, not in fear, but in something closer to reverence. "Did you see that?" he asked quietly. Kamau nodded. "She looked right through you." Sifu shook his head. "No, she saw me." They retreated, giving the lioness distance, watching from behind the shrubs as she nestled her newborns closer, her body trembling from exhaustion. But her eyes, alert now, fiercely aware. Sifu kept checking his watch, timing her breathing, noting her recovery. She was weak, yes, but she was healing. Then came a sound that neither man expected, a low rumble, soft, vibrating through the soil. Kamau froze. Not thunder, not the wind, something heavier. A male lion was approaching, and he wasn't just any male. The ridge lion, dominant in the region, unchallenged for over 4 years. He was massive, dark-maned, and territorial. His presence meant danger, not just for the cubs, but for the lioness who had birthed them away from the pride. Males didn't always welcome new cubs, especially not ones born outside of their controlled territory. In many cases, they killed them, to restart the mating cycle. Sifu and Kamau exchanged a look neither of them wanted to say aloud. If this male saw the cubs and decided they weren't his, Everything they'd just done would be undone in an instant, and they were too far to intervene. The lioness lifted her head first, her ears twitching before the deep rumble grew louder. She stood, unsteady, her body still raw from the birth, but her instincts sharp as ever. With a low growl, she nudged the cubs into a tighter space beneath, the brush shielding them with her frame. The air changed. Kamau and Seifu stayed perfectly still, concealed by dense grass, as the sound of heavy paws crushing dry earth drew closer. Then, out of the tree line, he appeared. The male was enormous. Muscles rippled beneath a coat thick with dust and old scars. His mane was deep black along the spine, his eyes sharp and unreadable. He stopped 20 paces from the lioness, nostrils flaring. He had caught the scent, not just of her, but of the blood, the birth, the cubs, and with it, the possibility that they weren't his. Kamau knew what usually happened next. Infanticide wasn't cruelty in the wild, it was biology. A dominant male couldn't afford to protect cubs that didn't carry his line. The lioness crouched lower, growling now, her body curved around her newborns. She was injured, exhausted, but ready to fight to the death if she had to. Sifu's fingers hovered near the tranquilizer gun. "If he charges," he whispered, "I can't stop him in time." Kamau didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the male. Then the unexpected happened. The male didn't advance. He sniffed again, then took one step forward, not toward the cubs, but toward the lioness. She growled louder, baring her teeth. But the male paused, looking at her, not with aggression but with hesitation. He lowered his head slightly, ears shifting back as if uncertain. That single movement broke every pattern Kamau had learned in years of tracking lions. Males didn't ask for permission. They took what they wanted. But this one, he waited. The lioness blinked. Her growl quieted. And then, slowly, unbelievably, she stood aside, just enough for him to come closer. The male approached the cubs cautiously, lowering his great head. The first cub whimpered. The lion paused, then extended his tongue and licked the cub's back gently. Then the second. The lioness didn't move. She simply watched. Kamau leaned closer, stunned. "He's accepting them," he murmured. Seifu looked just as shocked. But why? "They're not." He stopped himself. No one could explain what they were witnessing. The male lion curled beside the lioness and lay down. Just like that, the threat was gone. The wild had broken its own rules, and two stunned humans watched as one of nature's fiercest predators chose peace instead of power. By nightfall, the lions were resting in a loose circle. Two newborn cubs nestled between the lioness and the once feared male. Kamau and Seifu hadn't moved for hours, barely whispering, afraid even a breath might shatter the fragile peace they were witnessing. The ranger had seen countless lion encounters before, but nothing like this. A dominant male, not only sparing cubs that might not be his, but laying down beside them. Seifu quietly took notes, his mind racing with scientific questions. But even he knew this went beyond biology. It was a moment that couldn't be filed under typical lion behavior. This was something else. The next morning, Kamau set up a motion-sensitive camera from a safe distance. The team agreed it was time to leave the lions undisturbed. Their job for now was done, but they also knew this needed to be shared. Back at camp, the footage was downloaded and quietly circulated among senior rangers, biologists, and wildlife agencies. Then, without much planning, one of the reserve's communication officers posted a short clip online. In less than 24 hours, the story spread across the world. A lioness giving birth alone, a human helping her, a male lion defying natural instincts to protect, not kill. It wasn't just a wildlife moment. It was a living metaphor for compassion, for instinct, for the silent bridges that sometimes form between species when survival hangs in the balance. News outlets picked it up. Headlines read, "Mother lion aided by humans in stunning wild birth," and "Male lion's unexpected act captivates millions." Comment sections filled with awe. Some called it divine, others just called it impossible. But the footage didn't lie. Kamau and Sefu gave brief interviews, careful to avoid dramatizing what they had done. "We didn't save the lioness," Kamau told one journalist. "We just helped her make it through one more day. She did the rest." Meanwhile, wildlife experts from around the world watched the footage frame by frame. Many offered theories about shifting pride dynamics, climate stress, hormonal changes. But others quietly admitted what Kamau already knew in his bones. There are moments in the wild that science can't explain. Moments where instinct and mercy meet. Moments that remind us we're not so different after all. Weeks passed. The lioness, now fully recovered, remained close to the male and her growing cubs, choosing to raise them not in secrecy, but in the open stretch of low hills where the incident had unfolded. From a respectful distance, Kamau and Sefu returned every few days to monitor the small pride's progress, never interfering, never intruding, just observing. The cubs thrived. Their legs grew stronger, their curiosity endless, and every time Kamau saw them tumbling in the tall grass beneath the same fig tree where life had almost ended, he felt a quiet pride swell inside him. Then one morning, as the dry season reached its peak, something happened that neither of them expected. Kamau was alone this time, doing a routine sweep along the outer ridgeline, when he spotted the lioness in the distance. She wasn't resting. She was standing tall, eyes locked in his direction. And next to her, just like before, was the massive male. Between them, the cubs huddled close. At first, Kamau froze. But the lioness didn't growl, didn't shift her stance. She simply looked. And for several long seconds, he looked back. In her gaze, there was no fear, just recognition. It wasn't the same as trust. It was something older, wilder. Acknowledgement, perhaps. A moment between two beings who had once touched fate together and survived it. A moment that said, "I remember. I saw what you did." Then the lioness turned and walked away, the cubs bounding. After her, the male following in quiet strength, Kamau stood alone on the ridge, not needing to say anything. No camera would capture that moment, no scientist would document it, but it would live with him forever. Back at camp, Sefu asked what happened. Kamau just smiled. "She looked back," he said simply. "She saw me." That night, under a sky full of stars, the bush lay still. No headlines, no documentaries. Just the quiet knowledge that for once, in a world where nature often shows no mercy, mercy had found its way in. And it came from both sides, man and lion, because sometimes it isn't just strength that defines the wild, it's kindness.